So this is really interesting. We are now at the point in this country where even hardcore Texas Republicans are softening on the issue of weed. Take a look at this.
But remember this, and that is, for possession of marijuana, it is now a Class C misdemeanor in the state of Texas. And so one thing that I believe in, and I believe the state legislature believes in, and that is prison and jail is a place for dangerous criminals who may harm others. And small possession of marijuana is not the type of violation that we want to stockpile jails with. And so we have been making steps in that regard.
Now, listen, I don't want to give him too much credit here because he hasn't really lifted a finger to do anything positive on this issue of marijuana. If this is an indication that they're not going to prioritize that and they don't want to fill the jails and the prisons with people like this, okay, that's good, but they have to actually carry it out. And there's a lot that they could do legally, and he hasn't really lifted a finger. So I don't want to give him too much credit here. I think he's also responding to pressure from opponents. Now, Beto's involved, and he's for legalizing marijuana, so he might feel the pressure on that. 67% of Texans want to legalize it. So that's probably what's going on here. But having said that, look, there's been a sea change. Nobody can deny it. 67% of Texans are in favor of legalizing marijuana. Over 50% of Texas Republicans are in favor of legalizing marijuana. You cannot hold yourself up as like, we are the state that believes most in freedom, and then turn around and lock people up for putting something in their body when they're not hurting anybody else. That would be like the definition of freedom. That's right in line with basic freedoms. So, again, don't give him too much credit here, but there has been a sea change on this. And then, of course, that leads to the bigger point, which is President Biden could right this second legalize marijuana in the entire country. He would just have to sign an executive order that changes the scheduling of the drug from Schedule 1 to Schedule 4 or 5, or just take it off the list completely. At the very least, he could decriminalize it with the stroke of a pen. He could probably legalize it with the stroke of a pen. He's got a low approval rating. The Democrats are going to get hammered in the midterms. This would be one thing that would help them massively. It would help them massively. And that's to say nothing of the economic benefit that you get from it, creating an entire national industry overnight. A lot of states have legal marijuana at the state level. It's still technically illegal at the federal level, though. But if you allow these industries throughout the entire country, that is, job creation, tax revenue. God, it's so annoying. It takes so long for these things to evolve. Now we're at the point where public opinion is solidly on the side of legalizing. I think it's like new polls, like 70% support legalizing marijuana. But even when the public opinion gets there, it's the institutions still lag massively. And that's incredibly frustrating. But understand, I don't even know, if you go back to like 1990, imagine what the polls were on legal marijuana in 1990. My guess is, and I don't know, but it'd be below 40%. And probably 30-something%. But now, we got 70% of the country. Even Texas Republicans are like, we should probably stop being silly here. And the government is just dragging its feet. The Biden administration is out to lunch on this completely. And it's pathetic, man. It's absolutely pathetic. This is one issue that's a no-brainer. And I will say there's also an issue where we will eventually win. And the biggest reason for that is the issue of money. Because now the industries are big enough in the states where it's legal, where they can get involved politically. And they could start funding political campaigns, and as soon as an industry gets a lobbying arm, then that industry becomes a lot more viable. Because then, and I think there's more money now on the side of the pro-marijuana position than on the anti-marijuana position. So since that's the case, you're going to see a sea change. And eventually the politics will catch up, because there's no putting that genie back in the bottle. It's just not happening. So it's a shame that we even had to get to the point where there's a lobbying arm for it, but here we are. So at least, despite all of the crumbling around us and the hellscape that we live in and imminent apocalypse, at least you'll be able to get high, man, as it all crumbles. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.